Hello, I'm Deborah Sword.
Hi, I'm Tyson Bankert.
Tyson, I've noticed that these days it's getting harder and harder to not offend someone, especially on social media. For example, our last episode, we talked about people posting their grievances on Reddit to feel validated when they got offended. What's the harm of being easily offended? Is it a problem?
Ooh, I mean, I think it is and it isn't. It depends. It depends. It depends. So much of when I feel offended, uh, I often tend to brush it off sometimes. And I don't always say what I mean in that moment. Oh, I know you were just kidding, or I know you didn't mean it that way, or don't worry, we're like forget about it. Oftentimes is my response. But then sometimes though there is harm that has been caused because it's maybe a pattern of behavior that I need to be able to squash in a moment or have the conversation about. Um, and then there's times where I offend others, and my response is, "Oh, don't! I was just kidding. I didn't mean it that way. Move on." Or, "Oh, you're too sensitive." And so it does. I wonder, how do we address harm when we're always open to going out the door of the least conflict and avoiding that thing that we oftentimes say is what we kind of sometimes usually mean.
Wow, there's a lot there. Let's unpack it. So, first of all, somebody says something, so we feel insulted, we feel judged. You and I have talked a lot about feeling judged. And then we attribute something to the other person, what their intention was, because as we've said before, intentions are invisible. So we tend to become offended on a scale, very offended, a little bit offended. I never want to see this person again as long as I live offended.
Hmm.
And how we feel about the relationship. Is it one that's important to us where we want to talk about it? Because we say a fraction of what we're feeling and thinking, but people aren't mind readers. So, how we express ourselves is sometimes in proportion to how offended we feel. And there's good research that men and women are offended differently and they react differently. So, it isn't possible to avoid being offended all the time because people can be unintentionally insensitive. And then we try to control what they said. We can then get into an argument about what they said, the words they used, what their intention was. What they said might have truly been offensive, but your reaction is still yours to control. You
Mm.
you can still take ownership of your reaction. And the expression I sometimes use is I'd rather get it right than be right. If I need to be right, I'm going to argue. What you said is, what you did meant was. But if I want to get it right, I do something different. Then I ask questions. So, Tyson, what might be some of the questions you would ask if you were feeling offended?
Yeah, I mean, I might say this is how what you said made me feel. I might say something to the effect of, "Did you mean when you said it this way?" I might even ask the question, "Do you know how that makes me feel when you say that way?" And so trying to sort of get to, I think what I hear you saying is get it right. Like what was what was the not even maybe always intention, but trying to unpack and unsurface a lot of the things that came up in that maybe flippant statement that someone has said. Um, you know, and are even and I think I really appreciate what you said about that proportional, right? It can be easily as saying, when you say it that way, and you've said it like that before, I'm wanting to sort of address this because it makes me feel this way again, or maybe that's actually not true, or actually maybe it is true, and I'm wondering why you think that based on what you said. And so I think there's lots of different, I think with that ability to open with curiosity and relationship centered focus being really important. Um, but also that ability to address the harm, I think once it comes back to that proportionality of like, you know what, when you say that, I never would, I wouldn't, don't want you to say that again because of these reasons, right? Or this is the way that it affects me. So creating some of those really important boundaries is also a competency skill that you can practice in those moments.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is that we get defensive and wary, and the harm is to the trust you have in the other person. And those
Hmm.
go directly to the quality of the relationship. It's hard to be friends with someone you don't trust because they hurt you. If you're offended, chances are they've said something that goes to your identity or your self-image or what's important to you, your values. Those are essential to us. And it's essential that we feel like our friends or colleagues or the stranger on the bus, that they respect our values. Uh, I was I was on a bus to an airport, uh, and the bus driver felt free to be a racist. And
Mm,
I was a guest in another country. I didn't know this person, but I was terribly offended. But I also felt powerless. He was driving the bus. And, what do you do? What is the right thing to do?
hmm, 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 hmm,
And I did. I said, well, that's not the way it is, and just
hmm,
left it
hmm,
at that. And we rode the rest of the way in silence.
hmm. Well, I think that's it though, right? Is what you were saying about would you rather get it right or be right? I think both of the times that can be really important that you state what is the right thing to do and also right for the moment, right? Like that it's not just how, you know, to one up someone. It's really about sort of stating like this is the right thing and to say or do, and you did cause harm, and what would it look like to repair it. And sometimes people in this case, you know, ignore it and, kind of just keep on driving, I guess, literally. Uh, but I think to your point of I think so often we can think about even at the very beginning of this, you said this idea of being easily offended. And we often will always reserve back to, oh, well, it's the victim's fault or that person is being easily offended and they're the problem rather than the person who's maybe causing the harm. And um and being able to own it of oh I've someone has stated, and I think so much of when we know that we've offended someone and they let us know, I think it's an opportunity to actually um pivot and repair rather than ignore, because so often I think, to what you said, so much of us, so much of what we say is so little of what we actually fully think. And so for someone to take the time to share with you about them being offended, says a lot.
Exactly. And I would actually, if somebody were to say that was offensive, as you said, rather than doubling down, I would say thank you. Thank you for pointing
Hmm.
that out to me. And the conflict competency to me would be the difference between what somebody said and what I heard. And we can do a better job of clarifying that distinction. This may be what you said, but I'm not going to assume that's what you intended until I clarify. This is what I heard. What did you mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's an interesting time on social media with a lot of judgment and people being offended. So it's good to have some competencies to deal with that and not just assume that everybody means to offend you all the time. Thank you, Tyson.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you for listening. I hope you'll subscribe to our podcast.